You know, there's a certain irony to sitting at your favorite coffee shop, your usual spot, only to feel like you're standing on the edge of nowhere. That was me, Jessica, sipping on my lukewarm latte, shell-shocked from yet another rejection for a management position that everyone said I wasn't corporate enough for. I remember telling myself, maybe I just don't belong in this world. The whispers of doubt were loud. My childhood was filled with reminders of what success looked like from a distance, and it was a picture I never seemed to fit. Growing up in a low-income neighborhood, the dreamers around me were often treated like fools. Society placed bets against people like us. I'd hear people say, "You need to know your place," and I started to believe them. But somehow, beneath all those layers of disappointment, my love for technology sparked a fire, a whisper that said, maybe you can create your own place. As I scribbled ideas on a napkin that day, surrounded by the noise of ambition and opportunity, my heart raced, not from excitement, but from the weight of my past rejections that loomed like dark clouds. I took a deep breath, looked around and muttered to myself, I'll show them. Little did I know that this little moment would set off a chain reaction, leading me from feeling like an outsider to becoming part of a new wave of innovators. But first, I had to confront a world that was quick to overlook me. I remember that day like it was etched into my bones. A cold winter morning that only fueled the sharpness of my anxiety. I walked into that glass-walled building, believing in my ideas, buzzing with the hope of landing that coveted position. But Brian, God, I can still see his smirk. Jessica, your approach is unconventional, he said, eyeing my worn sneakers and asking if I really thought I could lead in a place like this. His voice dripped with condescension, and those words struck a nerve. We need someone who's polished, someone who fits the corporate mold. I swallowed hard, my heart racing, my cheeks burning. I left the interview feeling smaller than I ever had, the hum of bustling office life washing over me like a torrent. My best friend Sarah met me at my favourite coffee shop, a comforting refuge. Jessica, it's just one job, she said, her voice soft, but I could see the concern in her eyes. It's not just a job. It's my dream, Sarah, and it feels like it keeps slipping away. I felt the familiar pang of disappointment mixed with anger, my voice rising higher than intended. What if I never escape this? What if I'm always just the underdog? The universe had a way of mocking me. My mood only darkened on my walk home, but then I stumbled upon a nondescript flyer plastered on a lamppost. A tech startup was looking for innovative product ideas. My pulse quickened, and suddenly a spark ignited in my chest. I thought, what if I could create the change they don't see coming? I couldn't let Brian's words define me. I was going to prove everyone wrong, starting with myself. So here we are, in the thick of it. Jessica, armed only with a handful of poorly sketched ideas, and a team of fellow misfits, is fighting the odds. And let me tell you, those odds are reeking of despair. It was like trying to swim in molasses. Every stroke felt heavier than the last. Settling into their little coffee shop huddle, the energy was initially electric until reality threw a bucket of ice water on their enthusiasm. Wait, you want to integrate? What? With who? One of her teammates' blurted eyebrows flying up like they were shot out of a cannon. And just like that, it was a circus. Ideas clashed louder than a band of angry cats. Each person convinced their vision was the true north. Jessica felt herself shrinking under the mounting pressure, thoughts swirling like a tornado. Am I even cut out for this? What if I lead them down the wrong path again? As they dug deeper, it became crystal clear that the harsh world outside didn't exactly roll out the red carpet. They knocked on doors, reached out to investors, and received more rejection emails than she could count, probably enough to wallpaper a small room. Thanks, but no thanks, read the 100th response. And yeah, that no thanks hit harder than she cared to admit, echoing the sentiment she'd felt her entire life. Just when they thought they had momentum, the universe decided to unleash its latest storm. A rival company released a product that was, let's say, a little too similar to theirs. Talk about a gut punch. Jessica could almost hear her doubts cackling at her, smugly whispering, "Told you so," but somehow through the frustration, a flicker of defiance blazed within. "We need to rethink this," she yelled, surprising even herself. In that moment of crisis, when every fibre of her being wanted to curl up and binge-watch reality TV, she gathered her motley crew. "Guys, we've come too far now. We're not backing down. If we fall together." Whatever happens next, she would stand tall, if only because she didn't want to give those doubts the satisfaction of witnessing her surrender. So there they were, a mismatched group of dreamers ready to throw themselves into the storm one more time. And oh, how the winds were about to shift. Jessica stood on that stage, her heart racing. The eyes of the industry giants felt like daggers. She gulped memories of her public failures flashing through her mind, the sneers, the dismissals. But then an audience member leaned forward, a spark of interest lighting in their gaze. "What brought you here?" they asked, their voice cutting through the tension like a knife. It was a question that shook her to her core. "What brought me here?" Jessica whispered her words tinged with vulnerability. She took a deep breath, feeling a shift within a rising tide of clarity. "I've been told I don't belong," she started, her voice gaining strength. "The mockery, the labels, I internalized them. But it was in that darkness that I found my fire. I didn't just want to create something, I wanted to change the narrative." She could feel her pulse quickening, the adrenaline coursing through her veins, igniting a flame. There, amidst the elite, she discovered not just her voice, but the power of honesty. "I'm not just a misfit," she declared, each word resonating with the audience. "I'm a pioneer. My team and I, yes, we're different, but that's our strength. We bring new perspectives, untold stories, and innovation that speaks to the heart." For the first time, she saw it, heads nodding, eyes softening. The atmosphere shifted, filled with anticipation instead of skepticism. Jessica leaned into the energy pouring out her vision. Imagine a world where technology isn't cold and corporate, but warm and inclusive. Where every voice matters, where every idea can change the game. Her passion surged, igniting the room. She was no longer just pitching, she was leading. Each word became a bridge connecting her dreams with a future she once thought unattainable. Hope soared, filling the air like electricity. The crowd leaned in, captivated. She could feel them rooting for her, rooting for them, a misfit team against the odds. And in that moment, all her fears unravelled. Jessica smiled. She was unstoppable. The tide had turned, and everything began to shift. In the boardroom, the air crackled with anticipation as Jessica stood before a cluster of seasoned investors, her heart racing. The glow of spotlights illuminated her face, reflecting not just a journey of rejection, but a surge of defiance coursing through her veins. This was her moment, every ounce of sweat, every late night brainstorming session, every self-doubt now converging into this single pitch. As she spoke, the tremor in her voice transformed into a steady cadence. What we're creating isn't just a product, it's a lifeline for those who, like us, have felt dismissed. The investors leaned forward, captivated not by polished slides, but by the authenticity of her words. With each sentence, the fog of skepticism began to lift. In the back, Brian observed his confidence visibly shaken as he grappled with the realization that he was wrong about her. The melody of enthusiasm built to a crescendo. By the end of her presentation, the room erupted in applause, not out of obligation, but out of genuine respect for the innovative spirit they just witnessed. As the offers flooded in, Jessica exchanged glances with her team, their smiles filled with disbelief and joy. For a moment, she allowed herself to bask in the victory, not just the funding, but the validation that had eluded her for so long. When she shook hands with an industry leader, the warmth of the gesture was more than just business. It was a shared acknowledgement of her journey. Jessica turned to look at Brian one last time. Instead of revenge, she wore a quiet smirk that spoke volumes, a message woven into her triumph. I did it, and I hope you learn from this. While the headlines would celebrate her success, a flicker of truth lingered beneath the surface. Success doesn't erase the scars. It simply makes them part of a story worth telling. It wraps itself around the lessons learned, reminding her that every struggle along the way held meaning, molding her into the leader she was destined to be. As we close this chapter in Jessica's journey, we find ourselves reflecting on the lessons woven into her tale of rejection and triumph. She transformed from a defeated figure, one caught in the throes of self-doubt, into a beacon of hope and success for others like her. Through her trials, Jessica discovered that power isn't simply about authority. It's rooted in the courage to stand tall in the face of adversity and to trust in oneself. In a world that often equates revenge with justice, Jessica chose a different path. Instead of retaliating against those who doubted her, she embraced her vulnerability, channeling it into something greater. Is it true then that revenge only serves to cloud our judgment? Or can it sometimes be a catalyst for growth? What if the real measure of success is not in the wins, but in how we rise after the losses, not just for ourselves, but for those around us? Jessica's story encourages us to ponder these divisive questions. In the end, her victory wasn't merely about proving naysayers wrong. It was about redefining what success means and who can attain it. So as we part ways, I invite you to share your thoughts. Have you ever encountered the kind of rejection that forged a stronger version of yourself? How did you respond? Let's dive into a conversation that could challenge our perceptions. In a world filled with doubt, sometimes the most rebellious act is believing in your dreams. And remember, it's not just your journey. It's the way you uplift others along the path that truly defines your legacy.